Hello everyone. Today we are here with Aadi Gannavaram and we're going to be talking about youth mental health. Aadi is a freshman in the Montgomery County public school system, and from a very young age he's been interested in STEM studies and as a vector of innovation to address the challenges that we face in society today. And they range from climate change to health, to behavioral health, to mental illnesses, and everything of that nature that we have seen a distinct rise in awareness of, especially after COVID-19 epidemics. He, besides being a STEM student, he loves to fence, and he is also a competitive debater, and he also plays the jazz saxophone and the Indian tabla. So he has multiple talents that he brings to his efforts to find resolutions to the different challenges that we face. When COVID came about, Aadi was in middle school, and he wanted to do something to not just passively sit and observe, but also to actively work at helping people during the COVID epidemic and the pandemic. So he started working with the American Diversity Group to help provide supplies such as masks and also food distributions. And right now, as the pandemic is, one can say, getting a little less attention in society nowadays, he has switched his focus to the mental health issues that have been raised not only by the pandemic, but also as in the news events we see, unfortunately, all the mass killings of school students, of grocery store shoppers in New York, and so on and so forth. He is selected to be a youth ambassador by the Montgomery County DHHS to advance the behavioral health and behavioral health study and find resolutions in an accessible, equitable, and in a manner that reaches out to all kinds of different populations. So welcome, Aadi.
Thank you.
I'm glad you can join us today, and we would like to question you a little bit on what your opinion is on the things that are happening today, as well as on general mental health issues faced by the youth.
So I think that there's a lot of different mental health issues that the youth face right now, and they all stem from events that have happened recently. Of course, the major one that you've mentioned is the COVID-19 pandemic, which took the focus of a lot of people away from maybe academics for the youth specifically, and maybe their friends and peers, which would lead to more social isolation. And as you mentioned as well, all the shootings and tragic events that have occurred more recently, those have also had similar effects. So all of these are just compounding together and causing more mental health issues in the youth, which is what we're here to discuss today.
So you basically answered a really important question, that what causes mental health problems. We have these events that are happening on the outside. What other types of causes can affect mental health? Maybe some of the ones that are not as visible.
So some of the things that can cause mental health issues are, of course, as I mentioned, social isolation due to the pandemic, other tragedies, but also bullying is like a major factor that is so common that it's just become like it's something in the background, which shouldn't be the case because it really impacts so many people in many different ways. Additionally, academic pressure is a major cause of mental health issues, and the lack of social support and networks of people who can talk to the youth and help them solve their mental health problems contributes to more of these issues.
How prevalent would you say, in your research that you've done so far, how prevalent is mental health concerns that the youth face today?
I think they're extremely prevalent and they're not spoken about enough. For example, last year, 1 in 5 teens reported that they are suffering from some mental health concern themselves, and more worryingly, 19%, which is almost 1 in 5 as well, of Asian American teens reported considering suicide. Which
wow,
is, yeah.
That's eye-opening, isn't it?
Yeah, so both of those tie into the academic pressure cause, and because of all these factors that are so easy to experience in your day-to-day life as a student, these mental health issues are extremely prevalent.
They're so prevalent, but one would think that they would be easy to notice, right? But by friends and families. What do you think are some of the signs and symptoms that people can look out for?
Some of the signs are that people suffering from mental health issues feel more disconnected from their families and people that they talk to normally. They interact less with their peer group. They may lose interest in activities that they're normally very passionate about. And they might just lose focus on academics or social connection overall.
That is interesting, Aadi. And how, say, if I notice somebody having those kind of symptoms, what do you say is a good way to bring that up and talk? Because it's the sensitive subject.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I think the best thing you can do is talk to them and ask questions, because the more you know about the issue they're facing, the more you can do, because you get a bigger picture. And more importantly, abandon all judgment of the situation. You have to have an open mind, consider anything that the person might be facing and how it could impact their mental health. Yeah.
Do you think, looking at the South Asian community and the cultures that we have, the old traditional cultures that we have, do you think that affects the way we look at somebody suffering with mental health issues?
Yeah, I think that's true, because many people might disregard these mental health issues as a transient phase, when in reality it's a serious problem. Others might consider that people suffering from mental health issues might be emotionally weaker, but that is not the case, because anyone can suffer from these issues.
We're talking about noticing in mental health issues in other people. What if you feel like you're having a problem yourself?
The best thing you can do if you feel that your mental health has been deteriorating, or you've noticed this yourself, is to be proactive and talk with your family members about this, because you can't expect to solve the issue all by yourself, which will just lead to more isolation and probably worsen the situation. You have to step forward, talk to new people, talk to your family members, speak to trusted adults like your school counselors, and look into getting involved with social networks and people suffering from similar issues, so you can gain a better understanding of what you're facing.
Does all mental health treatment lead to the same outcomes, or do they all have the same treatment, like you take pills and that's it, or what?
No, so medication is definitely not required to treat mental health issues, because as you said, the mental health problems often depicted in movies are unrealistic, because they're far more common and less apparent. So there are definitely ways you can treat mental health issues on your own without any medication. So for example, yoga, meditation, and exercise are great ways to relax your mind and calm your mind. And they've been scientifically shown to release endorphins and put your mind in a less agitated or anxious state. And additionally, seeking help with your counselor or contacting therapists is another great way to find someone to speak to and kind of vent your issues with.
That's very true. And you know what? If there are instances where people would have to take medicines to help them get that head start on to counter their symptoms, and that's fine too. And if needed, your therapist or your counselor can recommend a particular path to follow based on talking with you and knowing you and your problem. So it is not automatically that if you feel like you have a mental health issue that you have to start taking pills automatically. That's not the case at all. So there's lots of good ways to address those issues, especially as they're beginning. if you notice them starting up, is to do the yoga, meditation, exercises, listening to good music, and all those things, spending time with family. That's always been a great helper for me. And I suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder due to my combat deployments. And so I speak from experience and not just as somebody telling, just talking on TV. Why do you think that there's this stigma around mental health issues, especially in the South Asian American community?
I think the large reason for the stigma is that people don't take mental health issues seriously because they're not really seen as your typical medical problems because they're not physical or there's no visible markers. But just because something is less apparent doesn't mean it's not there or isn't a serious problem. So many people just don't take the issue seriously and consider any depression or anxiety to be a passing or, as I mentioned, a transient phase when it's a serious problem. And some people may regard those who suffer from these issues as mentally or emotionally weaker than others, which is not the case.
Let's turn our attention to the white, the big elephant in the room, and that is the school shooting that just happened in Uvalde, Texas. It is the 27th school shooting this year in the U.S. and it is extremely common, as the number suggests. And you'd be surprised to learn that more students have died from gunshot wounds in schools than police officers have in their line of duty in 2022. So being a student is more dangerous than being a cop. Now, imagine that for a second. I would love to get your perspective on, as a student, as somebody who is similar in age to the kids who were unfortunately killed by that person. What is your opinion, and your fellow students, what do they think of this school shooting?
So the general reaction in the student body at my school, at least, has been what is expected. Almost everyone just is in agreement that this event is a tragedy that is very disturbing and could have been prevented had regulations and other laws been in place to stop it. However, unlike me, so I have the privilege to come here, talk to my parents, talk to my family about this issue and freely discuss it. But what could be surprising is that the discussions that occurred in school have been brief or have had a limited scope in nature. They weren't lengthy or extensive at all. And I think because of this, a lot of the student group that actually needed to have these discussions and were in need of somewhere to talk about what happened didn't get the opportunity to do this. And I think because of this, it led to a disruption in their focus and their ability to go about their daily lives.
And I'm sure it's nothing that wears off in 2 days, or even a week or a month. Students, young impressionable minds especially, think about these things, and they may not have a way to verbalize and vocalize what they feel because they just don't have the life experience in dealing with these kind of issues. So as parents and guardians of these young students at home, it is very important for you to not only listen for issues that they may bring about, but ask them. Open up the conversation. Make sure that they are doing okay, because they may not even tell you. They might try to hide things from you because they don't feel comfortable. Address the issue. If you haven't talked about the mass killings that happened in Buffalo, New York, at the grocery store or at the school here in Uvalde, Texas, mention those topics. Let them know that you're aware of these things and you're concerned about your son or daughter or your grandkids. Make sure that they don't feel like nobody in the house ever speaks about these things, so I won't either.
There are many things that could be done to solve the issue, like voting or civic engagement. However, my student body and my age group do not have access to these ways to cause change. However, there are many things that you can do to alleviate the pain that some students experience in this situation. So Montgomery County has many mental health programs and initiatives put together to solve the problem. An example I can give is the Asian American Health Initiative, which regularly schedules meetings and does the social networking for people suffering from these issues, as I mentioned earlier. So looking to those programs is a good way to start working towards a solution for the problem, even if you can't fix it directly.
Also, another, just so you have more resources available, follow the American Diversity Group on Facebook, subscribe to the newsletters that they have. I have my own newsletter called The Happiness Project with Richard Bakshi, and I write about mental health issues. It's not, every week or so I would have at least one new edition out there. Week and a half, and I write about not only mental health issues that affect generally the people that we have, the South Asian community, but I also write about things that happen and they're in the news, unfortunately, too many times a month that we have these kind of violent headlines. Thank you, Aadi, for coming here and giving us your very valuable insight onto this very big problem that we have only recently started to address. I appreciate everything you're doing, and I hope you're spreading this awareness that you have in your youth, in your peers as well. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.